I'm Cameron and welcome back to my channel where we sip tea and also spill the tea as I talk about some of my favorite reads. As the fall season is coming around, the yearly It's Finally Fall book tag has begun. And you know, I am new to booktube. I remember every year I would watch this book tag and I always thought like, wow, I want to do that. So you know what? I finally made a freaking booktube and this is my time. I'm going to create this fall book tag and I'm so excited to do this. So without further ado, let's fall into this video. That was really cringy. That pun sounded better in my head. Okay, I have the questions on my phone, so I am going to be looking at my phone quite a bit to answer these questions. So let's start with question number 1. In fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. Okay, the book that I chose for this was Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. Guys, I just read this book a couple months ago and guys, this whole world that was created was such a freaking filthy and fabulous masterpiece. And the reason why I say filthy is because this book is set in a type of dystopian fantasy Sin City, which, you know, it's Las Vegas, Nevada. And our author, Amanda Foody, has our girl in travel from a city that's outside of Las Vegas and step into this world that is filled with sin and greed and lust, and this is all new for our girl in. Like, she is somebody who she was brought up in a very like uppity upbringing, you know, like where they sip tea, have their pinkies up and they're ladies and they talk like this. So whenever she stepped into Sin City, into Las Vegas, she was completely petrified and she had no idea what to do with herself. But guys, it was just such a cool contradiction whenever we were watching this girl who comes from such an uppity and ladylike background step into this world, and it was just described so well. I could see the sin that was dripping from this world. I could literally smell the smoke that was described in this book. I could hear the chips that were being thrown within the casinos, and guys, I totally fell in love with this book. This is such a great and moody read and I truly enjoyed it. And it's also very dark, and ooh, your girl loves her darker reads, you know? I like to take a walk on the darker side, and this book is definitely the darker side. So now I'm going to be getting into question number 2, and that is, nature is beautiful, but it's also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. Whenever I read this question, I knew instantly that I had to talk about Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. Now, I feel like I don't even have to describe this book to you guys. Like, this is like one of the most infamous books in the booktube community and on Goodreads, and anywhere you go where there are bookish people, you will hear somebody mentioning this book. This book is just so beautifully written, and it truly dissects and eloquently describes the experiences of loss and grief, and it does it in such a way that it is poetic and it's just beautiful. Like, whenever I was reading this book, I felt like I was reading prose. So our girl Juliet, the grief that she's experiencing is that whenever we are brought into this world, she is somebody who, she has the power to make people feel pain from her touch, and it can get to the point where that pain can become so all-consuming that the person who she's touching can lose her life. So because of this power that she has, she is completely alienated from her family and her friends, and nobody wants to talk to her or interact with her. So it gets to the point where her family completely discards her, and she ends up being taken to this insane asylum, and it's here where she has to deal with being completely alone and being completely isolated. She has completely like no human contact at all. Like, the author does such a good job at making you feel the feelings that Juliet was feeling herself. So not only does the author do a great job at describing what is going on in the head of Juliet, she also does such a good job at just writing so eloquently and so beautifully. Like, I just can't describe it. Like, this book is just, it's a masterpiece. It is beautiful. And I just, yeah, like, that's all I can say. It's awesome, and you should definitely read this because it is such a unique writing style that our author presents to us here. It's very different from other YA novels, and that is why it is so infamous amongst other book readers. You know, it is a writing style that our author has that readers either really, really love or they really, really dislike, and I was somebody who I really loved it. So yeah, this is definitely a book that deals with grief and it deals with loneliness, and it is definitely a book that is beautifully and wonderfully written. Okay, so now we're going to talk about question number 3. Fall is back to school season. Share a non-fiction book that taught you something new. So for this question, the book that I want to talk about is something that I actually can't remember the title or the author of it, so I'm very, very sorry about that. But I read this book last year, and I got it from my local community college's library, and I was trying to find it on the database because I do know that in the title it does mention Scandalous Women. So I looked up Scandalous Women in the database, but I could not find it, so I'm sorry guys, but I'm going to talk about it nonetheless because it was something that was really fun for me whenever I was reading it, and it was very interesting, and I swear I will find the title and the author of this book, and once I do, I will go back into this video and I will put that into the description box down below. Yeah, let's just get into it. So the reason why I picked this book was because it was just such a interesting read. It was about the history of scandalous women, and it was just so cool because what I learned was that there has been so many uninhibited and wild women throughout our history, and it's something that is so cool to read about, because when you think about our history, whether it's 50 years ago or 100 years ago, we automatically think about women who are very modest and have very, very high morals, and yeah, and that's just what I think of. This book just came to show that there have always been radical women who are not afraid to be wild and to be completely and utterly their inhabituous self. And guys, I just thought that was so cool to read about. And yeah, I just learned not to make conclusions about the past without first researching and diving into books that explain and talk about different women and different people that were living in the said past. So yeah, that was a really cool book, and once I remember the name of it, I will put it down in the description box below, okay? So question number 4 says, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. Okay. So for this book, I'm going to be talking about Bad Things by R.K. Lilly. The friend group that I want to be a part of in this book is this group of 40-year-old women that are within this book club. So to give you a bit of backstory, this book follows a girl named Danica, and I believe she's 20, 21. She's somewhere in that age range, and she's somebody who is going to college, and she supports herself by being a nanny to these young children. And by having that nanny gig, she gets to live in the house of the family whose kids she watches. And over time, she has formed a really strong relationship with the mother of the children. And also, over time, she decided to join the book club that the mother hosts every week or every month. And guys, like, let me just say, I absolutely adored this book club. The women that were in it were so funny, and I'm somebody who, yes, I may be 20 years old, but I might as well be a 50-year-old grandma with how I act, because I'm somebody who, instead of going out and partying on a Saturday night, I like to be cuddled in my blankets, preferably by a fireplace, and you know, I like to have a good time and stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning while I'm reading, and that's my form of partying. So I'm definitely the biggest partier, right? But no, like, I just think it would be so much fun to be able to be in this book club and to be hanging out with these older aged women, because, like, guys, they were just fabulous, and they are the type of women that I want to be whenever I'm older. Like, they made old age look amazing, and besides for that, like, these women were so hilarious. Like, it was so much, I was laughing so much whenever I was reading about these ladies. Like, they were crazy, and they were over there, like, sipping their cocktails and talking about men, and of course they were talking about books. But guys, like, it was just so much fun reading about them, and I wish beyond all wishes that I could be hanging out with those ladies as well, because they know how to have a good time, you know what I mean? Question number 5 says, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall colored spines. So the books that I have for you guys that are kind of like going with that fall orangey, goldy, and reddish toned theme are these books right here. Look how pretty they are. Like, it's so aesthetically pleasing. I love how they look together. So I'm just going to quickly name off the books that I have right here. It's kind of hard to hold these books. If this looks a little messy, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just having a hard time balancing them. But okay, so oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just gonna put them down right here so they don't fall. So the first 2 books that I have right here are actually poetry books, and that is All the Words Are Yours, which are a haiku on love, and that's by Tyler Knott Gregson, who basically, he is like the godfather of poetry. Like, he is all the rage right now, and everybody who likes poetry likes this guy right here. And then we have The Edge of Wonder. It's Notes from the Wilderness of Being by Victoria Erickson. This book was really fun, and it was very whimsical. I had such a fun time reading this book because it's all about, like, you know, being wild and free all on your own, and it's about, like, being totally unbound from society's expectations, and it's just about, like, being radically true to yourself. So that book was really fun to read. The next books that I have are The Devil's Medal by Karina Halley. I have yet to read this book, but I am so looking forward to it. I'm actually going to be reading this whenever we get closer to October, because this is a creepier new adult book. So it's something that is very scary yet smutty at the same time. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. Now, from there, I have Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahiran. I'm so excited about having this book. I have yet to read it, but I'm going to read it here soon. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also going to be making a vlog of this book, so I'm so excited to get into reading this. So if you like vlogs and you like Blood and Honey, then definitely look forward to that video. From there, I have The Betrothed by Kiera Cass. I tried to read this book, but I couldn't even make it past like the first few pages. I did not like this book whatsoever, but it's really beautiful and pretty, and yeah, so I mean, it looks good on the outside, so I like having it on my bookshelf. Yeah. From there, we have Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I am definitely going to be making another reading vlog to this. I have so many reading vlogs lined up that I have to make on my list. I'm just so intimidated by how many pages are in here. Like, there's like 800 plus pages, I believe, and it's so long. I'm just so scared to read it because it's, oh my goodness, I could literally knock somebody out with this book. But I am going to read this nonetheless, and it's beautiful, and it has all of the fall vibes to it. So those were the books that are fall-ish, you know. So the fifth question, or I'm sorry, number 6 reads, "Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story." So the book that I chose for this is called Monster in His Eyes by J.M. Darhauer. So this book opens up with our main character, Carissa, and this actually takes place after the events that are going to happen in this novel, and it's basically where our main character, Carissa, and she's saying how she met this man and he was dangerous, and she thought that he was Prince Charming, but he was actually the villain. And it really does have that storytelling quality, and right after that introduction we get swept into the story, and towards the end it does flip back into that storyteller-esque way of writing. So this is definitely a book that I would recommend if you are looking for something that has hints of that storytelling-esque style of writing, but you're somebody who you also like being swept into the story and reading a story that has first-person point of view, then check this book out. It was very dark, very broody, and it does have an anti-hero as the love interest. And guys, we all love our bad boys, and this man is definitely a bad guy. So yeah, that is Monster in His Eyes by J.M. Darhauer. Question number 7 reads, "The nights are getting darker. Share a dark and creepy read." Ooh, guys, I'm so excited to talk about this book. Okay, so the book that I picked for this is Dark House by Karina Halley, and this is the first book in the Experiment in Terror series. And guys, this book is so dark and scary, and I read this book last summer, and whenever I was reading this, it did not feel like it was summer. It felt like I was slap dab in the middle of Halloween, because this book is just so scary. And it actually follows a girl named Perry who teams up with this guy named Dex, and they create their own web series where they are ghost hunters. In each book they go to a different type of haunted house or somewhere where there are a lot of creepy things going on, and they check that out. And guys, like with each book, it just starts to get even more and more scary scary, and it got to the point where I literally could not go to sleep at night. I was scared. Like, I was so beyond terrified. And if you are looking for a book that will give you the scary thrills, but it will also give you, you know, a bit of like a sexy romance as well, then definitely check this out. Karina Halley is such an amazing author. I absolutely adore her. She's just a bomb as hell writer. I love her. For number 8, it says the days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. So the book that I want to mention for this is a YA novel called One Night That Changes Everything by Miss Laura Barnholt. Guys, this story was so much fun to read. So this book follows a girl who has a journal where she writes all of her secrets in it, and she also writes down things that she wants to do but she's too afraid to do it. And her ex-boyfriend actually gets a hold of this journal, and he and his friends end up blackmailing her, and they tell her that she has one night and one night only to complete all of the things in her journal that she was too afraid to do. And if she doesn't do that, then they are going to post all of her secrets online for everybody to see. So our main girl and her best friends end up teaming up, and they start to try to do all these things that she was too afraid to do beforehand. And guys, this was just such a fun book. It was very cinematic. I felt like whenever I was reading this that I was actually watching a movie. It really has that type of like Nick and Nora Infinite Playlist vibe to it, and it was just something where I was laughing so much. It also has romance in it, and it's just like the perfect type of coming of age story. If you want a book just to make you laugh and a really light and easy read, then definitely check that book out. Number 9 reads, Fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. I feel like this is very basic to say, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. If I were to read any older book, it would be Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now, this book, whenever I first read it, I was completely addicted to this book. I literally reread this book like 2 or 3 times, like in the span of a few months. Like, that's how much I liked this book. And if I were to reread anything, it would definitely be this, because it's just the type of story that it never gets old. It never gets boring over time. Anytime I read this, I see something new about this book that I didn't see beforehand. And guys, like, our main character is freaking incredible. She is a queen of a woman. She's just awesome. I love her. I love Selena Serhathian. So yeah, if I were to reread anything, it would be Throne of Glass. For the final question, it reads, number 10. Fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. Okay. First of all, anytime I want to be cozy, I always have my cup of tea or coffee, because guys, that just totally gives me the warm and fuzzies and it heats me up. I love it, okay? So because I am also a grandma, I told you already, I'm 20 years old, but I might as well be 20 going on 50. Whenever I'm reading, I love to be wrapped in my bright pink robe. Like, guys, this is just like, it's like being wrapped up in a blanket, and it just makes me feel so warm. It also gets so cold in my room, you guys. So I love to always be wearing this. This is definitely a necessity. Now, my third and final thing that I'm going to be mentioning for right now is my weighted blanket. This is my weighted blanket, and you guys, it is so amazing. It is just very therapeutic, and the weight within it just makes me feel like I'm wrapped in a cocoon. And you guys, like, there's nothing more incredible and nothing more soothing than being in the throes of my weighted blanket. I absolutely adore it. So yeah, that is what I like to have for a fall cozy evening. And let me just mention it one more time. I have to have my coffee. I have to have my bright and brilliant pink robe, and I also have to have this beautiful weighted blanket. So yeah, guys, that is the end of this video. I also have a very bad sore throat now, so I need to wrap this up. If you liked this tag, then guys, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Like I said before, I am new to booktube, so I don't really know that many people so far. So whenever it comes to tagging people, I'm going to be lame, and I'm going to tag my mom. Even though she doesn't have a booktube, she watches my booktube, and yeah. So I'm gonna tag my mom. I'm gonna tag that really hot guy that I saw at Target the other day. If you're watching this, hot Target guy, hi. Hello. I'm Cameron, and I don't need a book boyfriend if I could have you. Gosh. That is so lame. And finally, I'm going to tag anybody else who wants to make this video. You know what? I tag you. Yeah. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And as always, thank you for watching. Mwah.